You are listening to Realign Your Life Podcast, where I discuss with you strategies on how to realign your life and move towards the direction you always want to. I am Vivian, the host of this podcast, and every week I will bring value on how to improve and realign your life either through a guest or my thoughts. I can't wait to share what we have this week. It's time to realign your life. Hello, hello, hello. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Realign Your Life. And this is your host of the show, Vivian. I am so excited about the show today because we have a very special guest. And I know that there are some of you out there that needs this information that this sister is going to be sharing with you today. So I want you to join me, listeners out there, in welcoming Ms. Valerie Watkins. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I love the two V's are on today.
Oh, yes. And I always, when people ask me my name, I say V as in victory.
That's right. I use the same one. That's right. V for victory. And we have victory in every situation that we encounter because we have Him on the inside.
Oh, yes. And so those of you that are out there listening, I'm telling you, you're in for a treat. And if you're on your phone, you need to go ahead and text somebody and tell them they need to tune into this or just send them this recording. So Valerie and I actually met at a health fair.
Yes, we did.
And she was doing such a fantastic job. And her cause and her nonprofit is something that I think that every one of us out there could really profit from. So Valerie is a wonderful author. She lives right next door to us in South Carolina, Rockville, South Carolina. Yes. This lady is an author, and she's just got a wonderful, wonderful, heartwarming story. So Valerie, I'm going to let you just share with our listening audience out there. Just give them some of your background and how you ended up getting where you are today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vivian. I really appreciate this time. The Bible says we overcome by the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. And so the more I share my story, the more that I overcome, and then we in turn help others to overcome. My name is Valerie Watkins, Valerie Lawson Watkins. I use the Lawson because I want people to identify with my mom, who is Bertrina Lawson, with our first nonprofit that came about in Actually, the story started around 1933 when my mom was born. And then it continued up until a diagnosis that came from my dad in 1992. My father, my parents were separated at the time. I'm the only girl among 5 brothers. Yes, I have 5.
You were very protected. Right now.
Yes, I was very protected and still is. Thank God I still have my 5 brothers. I'm the 5th one, and I have a younger brother under me. But in 1992, my parents had separated, and my father was a former pastor, and my mom was an evangelist. And my father, we had gotten this call from the hospital. We were living in Connecticut at the time. I was born in Kinston, North Carolina, but we had moved. Yes, we had moved to Newark, New Jersey. because my mom would take me every summer with her to work in Newark, New Jersey, but because you made more in the North than you did in the South. So we would go up every summer. And this particular summer, when I was 8, my dad told my mom to stay in Newark because he would come and bring my brothers, which they stay with him during the summer. And he would transfer his job, which he was working at DuPont, and get an apartment, and he would move the family to Newark, New Jersey, and that's where we would stay. And so my father brought my brothers up that weekend, and my mom and I were so excited. We had this 3-bedroom apartment with 2 bathrooms, and my father did come and bring my brothers, and he went back home that following Sunday and said that he would be back that next Sunday to bring the furniture. And that next Sunday, we were all excited because we were going to have our furniture and we were going to be a family again. Well, that next Sunday, we looked for my dad. No truck, no dad. The following Sunday weekend, we looked for my dad. No truck, no furniture. The following weekend, here we are on the 3rd weekend, look for my dad. No truck, no furniture.
Wow.
And there my mom was with 6 children, working a job that made $300 a week, and she knew that she could not afford to take care of 6 children and an apartment and groceries and utilities and clothing and on $300 a week. Mm. So my mom always kept an address book. And my mom ended up calling a pastor who her and my father had ran a revival for in Newburgh, New York, which was an hour and a half from where we were. She called Pastor Davis and said, Pastor Davis, we were looking for Dan to come back, which is my dad, and he didn't come back. And we cannot afford this apartment, and we need some help. Pastor Davis came over with his wife in a Volkswagen.
Wow.
Came and got us in his Volkswagen. My mom packed as much as she could in his car with her 6 children and her. And he took us to Newburgh, New York. And that Sunday morning, he allowed my mom to speak. And my mom preached and praised and worshiped like nothing had happened. Wow. And so the 6 children sat on the front row. After service, Pastor Davis got up in the pulpit and he said, the Lawson children and Evangelist Lawson needs a place to live. And Deacon Warren and Mother Warren was on both sides of the church, and they both raised their hand at the same time. And wow. We ended up going to stay with the Warren family, and they already had 3 children. So there we were, 9 children, and my mom and Deacon and Mother Warren in Bells Gate, New York. And from there, my mom was able to work 2 jobs. We cleaned. We did our homework. We enjoyed there until a year and a half, until my mom was able to get us a place on our own. God provides. He provides. Moving forward, we moved from Newburgh, New York to Stamford, Connecticut. In Stamford, Connecticut, we run into my dad 5 years later.
Wow.
We run into my father. My father is in Stamford, Connecticut, working. And pick up.
And during all of that time, you had never heard from him?
Never heard from him, didn't know where he was. My father had only one sister, and my father's sister, my Aunt Harriet, didn't know where he was. She was going she lived in Virginia. She was going to Kinston to find out, to look for him. No one didn't know where my dad was.
So was he still ministering?
No.
Oh, he had left the ministry.
I left the ministry. Wow. Yes, wow. Yeah. So he caught up with us in Stamford, and he was not the dad that we knew when we were in North Carolina. He was, at that time, he was drinking and smoking and womanizing, but my mom loved him. So she took him back in. He had no explanation for us as his children. My father's mentality was that we were still little kids, and he didn't feel that he owed us an explanation. And so he came into the house, and he was My mom ended up having to get my oldest brother to get his paycheck before he came home because he was drinking up his money. He was a functioning alcoholic at the time. We moved from Stamford, Connecticut to Bridgeport, Connecticut. And there, my father still was doing his thing. And my mom got to the point where she said, enough is enough. She couldn't take it anymore. And her heart was broken, but my mom still kept going in her ministry, evangelizing, loving people, bringing people home. My mom would go away for a revival, and on Saturday mornings, we would be stepping over bodies on the floor. She would be bringing people home to minister to them, and they'd be sleeping on the floor. All 6 of us home, and she's still bringing people home because she loved people. She loved.
Well, that's sort of like what the Warrens were doing for you all. And she was like, now we hear the term passing it forward. So that's what she was doing. And it reminds me of the nonprofit that I'm with alongside families. And that's what God has called us to do.
That's right.
To care for each other.
That's right.
So in all of this, and now your mom and your dad has separated again. So how was your mom? And by this time, you guys are...
We're married. I'm still at home. I was the last one to leave. And I promised my mom when I was a teenager that before I got married, I would have my mom in her own home. Okay. I promised her that. And so what I did, I bought a 3-family home. My mom lived on the first floor. I lived on the second floor. And my older brothers lived on, 2 of my older brothers lived on the 3rd floor.
Wow.
And I made sure of that before I got married. And so fast forward one Sunday morning, I got married. And so I rented out the 2nd floor. I'm in Groton, Connecticut. I'm married to a military guy. I had my first child and my son. And we get a call. All of us get a call on a Sunday morning. And my second oldest brother's pastoring. And we get a call from my mom. And my mom says to us, we need to meet at the hospital in Bridgeport on Sunday afternoon because the doctor wants to talk to us about my dad. So we get to the hospital, all 6 of us and my mom. And the doctor tells us that my father came into the hospital for shingles. And they did some testing and they said that my dad has full-blown AIDS.
Wow. Now, what year was this?
This is 1992. So the only time that you heard of AIDS in 1992 was through Arthur Ashe. That's when he got discovered, the tennis player, from transfusion. And then you heard about it because of gays. It was a gays disease. And so there was not a lot of study. And that's when they actually discovered the name. That's when the name of it first came out. The AIDS with the lacerations and with people just was dying like flies during that time. And so there wasn't a lot of study, not a lot of meds. People were my dad was taking like 30 pills a day. He was losing weight. And with the shingles, of course, the shingles is a skin rash that affects the nerves. And so he had all these blisters on the surface of his skin. And he was losing weight like crazy. I mean, so within a short period of time.
So I guess that was very frightening for the whole family.
Oh, most definitely it was.
Didn't know what to do.
Here he's diagnosed with a disease that we don't know anything about, that's frightening. And so, and then of course, you're hearing in all this on the news and they're showing pictures. And they only showing pictures of mostly of our African American population at this time. And so we comfort my mom. And so my mom is he got released from the hospital. So my mom is going to his apartment and making sure he's got food, Meals on Wheels, and making sure he gets. Now, my mom didn't drive nowhere, but my mom was coordinating rides to the back and forth to the hospital, making sure he got his meds and to his appointments and everything. And of course, we were visiting him at the time. And so let's fast forward. My mom is in a revival in early part of 93. And she calls me up. My mom and I talked every single day. My mom was my mentor. My mom was my best friend. She calls me one day, and she is in revival in Las Vegas. And she's talking to me, and I'm saying, Mom, what is wrong with you? I said, you sound like you got a really bad cold. And she says, Valerie, I think it's a change of weather. And I said, well, when you get back to Connecticut, I said, I'm taking you to the hospital, to the doctor to see about you. And she says, okay. So I call my brother, my second oldest brother, who's now a pastor. And he's the first African-American that's over the HIV medical center, the community medical center in New Haven, Connecticut. And I tell him about Mother. And he says, no, you're not picking her up from the airport. I'm picking her up and I'm taking her to my doctor. Not knowing that at the time, he's telling me he's taking her to his doctor, and he's referring to the doctor at the HIV center where he's the director of.
Wow.
Because when my father got diagnosed, they did not test my mom.
Oh, I was going to ask you, did they not test the family? Wow.
They did not test her. My mom came home. My brother picks her up from the airport, and they go straight to the HIV community center where Dr. Saul is the doctor. My mom gets tested. The doctor asks my mom to sit out in the waiting room, and he calls my brother into his office, and all he does is shakes his head.
Wow, I know that had to be devastating.
And he asked my brother, how do you want to tell your mom? And he said, just call her in. Calls my mom in. My brother takes my mom's hand and tells my mom that she has full-blown AIDS.
So now, was your father still living at this time, Valerie?
My father's still living. At this time, he is going blind. He's weighing about 70 pounds, has no appetite. He is in diapers. And this is May of 1994. So first place my mom wants to go is to my father's apartment. My brother takes my mom from New Haven to Bridgeport, and he takes her in front of my mom, lets her off in front of my dad's apartment, and she goes in. And by the time my brother gets inside, my mom's laying at my father's feet, asking him why. Why, Daniel? Why? I don't believe that my father knew what it was. I don't know if he knew who he contracted it from. We don't know whether it was a male or female. We knew nothing. He never had a conversation with us about it. In my father's mind, we were still children. We weren't old enough to comprehend in his mind to have a conversation.
Wow.
So December the 4th of 1994, my father passed.
Wow. Almost 2 years after. Almost 2 years after he was diagnosed.
Yes. And my mom, even though My mom knew that she contracted full-blown AIDS from my dad. My mom still went over, cleaned his apartment, cleaned him, made sure he got to his doctor's appointments, made sure he was clean, made sure he was taken care of,
Wow.
loved on him.
Real servant heart.
She loved my father unconditionally.
Wow.
She did.
So then when did her health start deteriorating?
My father passed December the 4th of December the 4th of 1994. And she continued to minister 95 and the beginning of 96. My mom's health starts deteriorating. My mom actually contracted E. coli. And E. coli eats your colon. Mm-hmm. And so everything that she ate just went straight through her.
Yeah.
And so she always said, when she couldn't take care of herself, she wanted the Lord to take her home. Mm. And so she got to the point that she couldn't take care of herself. So she was in and out of the hospital. But even while she was in the hospital, my mom would take her oil and keep it in her gown pocket. She always told me, every time you buy me a gown, make sure it has pockets. She would take her IV stand, put her oil in her pocket, and would roam around the hospital and go visit people and pray for people in the hospital.
Wow.
At that time, we were stationed in Groton, Connecticut, which was an hour and 15 minutes from her. And I would be calling her room number. Of course, I'm not there with her. So I'm calling her room number, panicking every day, almost every day. And she is out of her room.
She's running up down the halls.
Praying for people. Wow. Loving on people.
Wow.
And bringing life and hope to people.
Even in her suffering and even in her pain. So that is a great lesson for us, even so. That reminds me, this morning I was reading in Philippians and how Paul was ministering to the Philippians, even in his difficult situation. So your mom is a woman straight out of the books. So when did she transition?
My mom, in 1996, July 9th, 1996, I turned 40. And my mom had my brother, the same one who picked her up from the airport, to come to my 40th birthday in Groton, where my ex and I was stationed. And she told me that day that was going to be my last birthday with her.
Wow.
At age 40.
Wow.
At that time, my mom was weighing about 80 pounds. She dressed up. She looked like a breath of fresh air. She didn't eat while she was with me. We had my birthday party at a restaurant. We had 40 people. I turned 40. And she stood up and she told my guests, she said, "This is going to be my last birthday with my only daughter." She says, "But I've given her everything that I had." Wow. And she said, "I'm glad that I only had one daughter." She says, "Because I couldn't have asked for a better daughter." And she says, "My daughter is going to go further than I've ever gone. But she has me inside of her along with God."
What a blessing.
And she blessed me that night.
Wow. Wow. This is just so God all around, Valerie, because I remember Jacob that blessed all of his sons.
Yes.
And so your mom is passing that blessing on. And that's something for us.
Yes, it is.
To remember and to take to heart in
Yes.
blessing our children.
Yes.
Speaking life and speaking
life.
prosperity.
Yes.
To them, because it's just like God said to us.
Yes.
For this blessing on us, saying, I know the plans that I have for you.
Yes.
To prosper you. Yes.
Yes.
So
and
that's
give
what
you
your mom.
That's right. That's right. And her favorite scripture was, these light afflictions are not to be compared to the glory that shall be revealed.
Oh, wow. How beautiful.
And so that was in July. November the 23rd of that year, we gave my mom her last birthday party. I checked her out of the hospital for 5 hours, and we were able to bring her to my oldest brother's house to give her her last birthday party. And we gave her the family ring. Her birthstone was in the middle, and 3 birthstones on the side. My oldest brother's Daniel. My second oldest is Lionel. My third oldest is John. It was her stone. And my 4th oldest brother is Joe. My birthstone is my birthstone, and then my youngest brother, Ronald. And she just cried. And I couldn't understand why I hadn't given her her mother's ring before. And she said to me on her birthday, she said, Valerie, she says, I want you to have this ring. And we were able to celebrate. A lot of people didn't come because during that time, the stigma that was attached to AIDS is that you could get AIDS if you hugged someone, if you touched them, if you ate behind them, and if you were in the same vicinity with them. So a lot of people didn't come. And I think that hurt my mom more because of all the people that she poured into, that she loved on and embraced and walked them through their journey, through their pain, and to their purpose. That hurt her. But we celebrated my mom, and I took her back to the hospital that night. And she was only 5'1". So when she sat on the bed, her feet was dangling, and she just thanked me for celebrating her birthday with her and for taking her out of the hospital. And she said to me, she said, this is my last birthday. She was 63. Wow. She said to me, she says, Valerie, I'm going home to be with the Lord soon. And she said, you have to release me. She said, you have to release me. I've given you all I've got. You've got to release me. So that was on November the 23rd. The week of December the 7th, my mom called. Now, my mom was on oxygen at this time that week. My mom took off her oxygen mask that whole week and called all of my siblings, all of my brothers. And she left me the last one to talk to on that Friday night. I didn't know that she had called all my brothers.
Wow.
And that Friday night, my mom called me and talked to me for over 4 hours. And she took me from the birth, when I was first born, up until at the age of 40 that night.
Wow.
And I asked her that night, I said, do you want me to come and see you tomorrow and bring my sons? At that time, they were 12 and 8. And she says, no. She says, I want them to remember their Nana up and about and loving on them. She says, no, please don't bring them. And her last statement to me, she says, Valerie, release me. You're the only one that hasn't released me.
Wow.
And I said, you are asking me a hard thing, Mother. You're asking me the most hardest thing in my life. She says, you've got to. You've got to. Hung up the phone. That Saturday morning, the Lord, the Holy Spirit woke me up about 3:00 in the morning. And I went into my bathroom. And I couldn't go any further. I just slid down my door. And I told God, I release her. I don't want her suffering.
Yeah.
I release her.
Yeah.
6:00 that morning, my oldest brother called me and said, Valerie, if you want to see mother for the last time, she's been put in intensive care. I released her. And we got there and she was in the intensive care. And Saturday night, December the 7th, 1996, my mom went home to be with the Lord.
Well, we know now, and you know now, that was God's intent all along. So from there, you were able to pull up your bootstraps and, oh, what a beautiful cover. So that is your book.
Yes.
That you were inspired to write because of your mom.
Yes.
No Sad Story.
Yes.
So how did you come up with that title, No Sad Story?
I came up with this title because when you would ask my mom, how was she doing? She would always say, no sad story. So wow. I was inspired in 2014 to write the book and start a nonprofit called No Sad Story Ministries. And we serve and service the HIV/AIDS community in Rock Hill and surrounding areas.
Wow. So your nonprofit is up and running, because you know what? We don't hear, we no longer hear a whole lot of talk or publicity about AIDS.
That's right.
And, but it is still alive and well.
Yes, it is.
There are people, I can remember when the AIDS epidemic broke out. My background is nursing, and I was nursing at the time, and in the hospital and working in the operating room. So we still had to, see patients. And at that time here in the U.S., it was sort of like the HIPAA law. People could not necessarily be tested for the AIDS virus.
Right.
But nowadays, the research has come so far. But what about education, Valerie? Are people still being educated, and are there still a lot of people that are victims of this virus?
Oh, most definitely. The education is not as prevalent and accessible as it should be. HIV and AIDS is still an epidemic. There are over 200 million people that are infected by HIV. And untreated, it turns into AIDS. We just had testing right here in Rock Hill at our center on Wednesday. You want to know how many people showed up?
Wow.
15.
Wow.
Only 15 people showed up. Now there's home testing, which I don't really approve of home testing because it's such a devastating news for someone to find out that they have HIV. I believe that they need someone medically around them and supportive around them if they find out that they are HIV positive, because it changes your whole life.
And even when they find out, there is some protocol that they need to go through, or you're so devastated. And so, because it's the stigma still there that people don't want to admit or want anybody to know.
Exactly. And it can go two ways. It can go to a very negative reaction. You get angry and you want everybody to get infected because you're infected. So therefore you start having sex, unprotected sex, because you're angry, you're hurting, and you want to hurt someone else. Or you can go to denial. I'm not positive. I'm not positive. This couldn't be happening to me. So what do? You don't go get treated. And there's so much research that has been developed now that you can actually get your viral load non-detectable because of your meds and your regimen being on the medication regimen. So there's a lot of discoveries, a lot of meds, and a lot of help that's available. But you've got to get tested. You've got to know your status.
Well, we know that that they have developed medications that can suppress the virus, and people are living almost a normal life.
That's right.
With the virus.
That's
and the person that comes to mind is Magic Johnson.
That's right. Exactly.
How long ago was he diagnosed? And I mean, he looks real robust and healthy.
Exactly. He's got the muscle tones. He is, you almost forgot that he's HIV positive. He's got the virus living in his body.
So can other people live that? Are there other people that are not quite as well known as Magic Johnson that are living with this?
Oh, most definitely. There's a lot of groups now that are 50 plus. I had the opportunity last year to go to a retreat of about 20, 25 women that are 50 plus living with HIV. Wow. And if you walked in the room, you would never know.
Wow. So how do we get the word out? How do we get the word out?
We've got to stay through social media, through networking, through podcasts like this, through our churches, through our organizations, through giving our testimony, sharing. We've got to get it out. Right. And advocacy. We have to get it out. Really.
Well, Valerie, you have the 501(c)(3).
Yes, I do.
No Sad Story, and you're all located right there in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Yes. So how can people reach out to you? How can they get involved?
Yes, they can get involved with me. Our website is myNSSM.org. I'm an advocacy. I'm a speaker. I can come bring information, come and speak, come and share. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an inspirational speaker. I'm an ordained minister. So I can come and speak to your group. I can come and share and give out information and educate your guests and host.
So is there opportunity for people to actually volunteer?
Most definitely. You go to the website, my website, myNSSM.org, and our email address is Valerie@myNSSM.org. Please get in touch with me. We have an office at Pathways right there in Rock Hill on Cherry Road. It's Pathways, 546 South Cherry Road, Rock Hill, South Carolina, 29730. And if you would like to donate to our cause, to our ministry, we would love for you to do that also, to help us to continue to serve and service the HIV/AIDS community. And we also have domestic violence organization too. We advocate for those that are experiencing domestic violence. Cry out to get out. Unmasking the mask of domestic violence also.
Oh, because that is near epidemic also.
Oh, most definitely.
Domestic violence.
Oh,
and
yes.
That is another call. That is another, it is almost a public health.
Yes.
Yes.
Because of mental health, because it's mental. It's mental. Both. That's right.
And so, and it's so good to see that we are addressing mental health more.
Yes.
Because hurting people hurt people.
They do. They do. And not only hurt people, but they kill people.
Yes. And I know that is something that another tragedy that came very close to you also.
Yes, it is. Yes,
so can you share your experience with domestic violence with our audience today?
Yes, I can. Very quickly, I can say, and back in 2017, I went for a notary signing and met the Johnsons. On my way out the door, I met Mrs. Johnson, and I just felt that she needed a hug. Hug Mrs. Johnson, Sharikia, and I asked her to walk outside with me. When I walked outside with her, she just began to tell me about the man that I just did the signing for. Her husband had been abusing her for 6 years. And I said to her, why do you stay? And she said, because she wanted her 2 sons to grow up in a 2-family home. And I said, even at your demise? And she said, I want that so much, even to my demise. I said, well, promise me that you will meet me twice, at least once a month. And she said, I would. And I said, pinky swear. We did a pinky swear. Every month, Sharikia had a story. She had a scar, or she had something to share or show me about domestic violence. Fast forward December the 17th of 2019, just before the pandemic started, she called me at night. Never called me at night because he was home, wouldn't let her have her phone when she got in from work. As soon as she walked in the door, she had to deposit her phone in his drawer.
Wow.
She called me at night on that December the 17th night, and I knew something was wrong. And all I could hear on the other side, her screaming and asking me to come and get her. I was in Rock Hill. She was in Clover. We got in my car, told my husband I'll be back, and came to her house. The door was wide open. I'm stepping over clothes. I'm stepping over glass. I'm stepping over furniture. And by the time I get to the opening to get to her kitchen, where I thought she may be, she comes around the corner on her hands and knees, eyes. She was crying like crazy, clothes ripped off of her, bleeding, couldn't even stand up. And the kids heard my voice calling her, and they came. She had a 5-year-old by him and a 10-year-old by her previous husband. They came running around the corner. Look what my daddy did to my mommy. Look what my daddy did to my mommy. Grabbing me around my leg and grabbing me around my waist. I get on my knees and I said, Sharikia, what happened? What happened, baby? She telling me that when she opened up the garage door, he put a belt around her neck and drug her from the garage door into the kitchen, screaming and hollering she was, and into the kitchen, kicking and slapping and dragging her and cussing at her and calling her all kinds of names. And thank God for iPhones, because she had her phone in her hand and she was able to swipe it. And it's an emergency swipe on your phone. And you don't even have to dial, but you can swipe it and it will automatically call the police. And that's what she was able to do while he was dragging her and she was trying to get away. And the police heard her, and the police came to the door, and he told her she better not say a word, left her in the kitchen. And the police said to him, he answered the door and he said, oh, everything's okay, as he's putting his shirt in his pants. And the police said to him, no, everything's not okay. And the police busted the door open and found her. And the police asked her, did she want to finally have him arrested? And she did. And so I asked her, why didn't she go to the hospital? She said, because I wanted you to take care of the kids. I go upstairs and grab clothes for them and she hollers from downstairs, Miss Valerie, we need to hide the 2 guns. I said, no, let's bring them with us, and my husband can hide them for you at my house. She says, no, just hide them upstairs. He won't find them. He won't find them. So by the time I get ready to come downstairs, she has crawled up the stairs to show me where to hide these 2 guns. One was a black pistol and the other one was a rifle. She hides the guns and crawls back downstairs. We leave. I take her to the hospital, spend the night. She has cracked ribs. She has a slight concussion. She has bruises, a sprained ankle, and a sprained wrist. Wow. We stay overnight to the hospital, and I brought her to I called my husband and asked him, could I bring them home, bring the kids on her own? And he said, yes, Valerie, please do. December the 18th, I bring them home and then let's fast forward. January, February, COVID. Yeah. So everything shut down.
Yeah.
So the kids are home from school with their tablets. I set up my dining room for her workstation. And right across the hall from her is my office that was already set up. And so she's slowly coming around and talking. I set up counseling for her and the boys. We set up therapy. She's going back and forth to the doctors and on meds, and things are going well. We're attending church online, and I'm having devotion with the boys, and things seem to be really going well. He came and got the car. We had to take the car because he got out of jail. He was on probation. And he wasn't supposed to got a restraining order, but he wanted the car. So we had to take him her car. So my husband let her have our spare car. So she had a car. Well, April the 8th, 2020. Get up, beautiful day, gorgeous day. Mm-hmm. Had my devotion, wonderful devotion. And I come in out of my bedroom. My bedroom's on the first floor, right off my kitchen. I come across my kitchen, go into the dining room. Her workstation's she's already at her workstation. And Junior, their 5-year-old that they had together, he's at the kitchen table. And he says, he called me Mama V. Mama V, how you doing this morning? Beautiful. I said, I'm doing good, Junior. He says, you making smooth? I said, yes. You want some? Yes. And I say to her, I said, Sharika, you look so beautiful today. Mm. And she looks up at me and she says, Mama V, I'm in a good place. She says, I'm in a happy place. And I said, it's showing all over your face. I said, you look like a ray of sunshine today. And I kissed her on her forehead. I go in the kitchen, make the smoothie. And I go and give Junior some of my smoothie. He sits back down by his mom. The oldest son, which is by her previous husband, he's downstairs still sleeping. My husband is went on an interview because he's taking a part-time job. And I walk around and go into my office, which is right across from hers, right across the hall. Sit down, put my smoothie down, turn my computer on. And all of a sudden, we hear this loud noise. And I jump up from my chair, and she jumps up from her chair and she grabs Junior. And she's backing up to the corner of the dining room where she sat up. And I'm standing at my chair and I'm trying to figure out what in the world. And all of a sudden, we see this man come in my house, hat turned backwards, red jogging suit with that black gun that we hid in her house, pointed towards her. And he says to her, you playing around with me. You playing around with me. This is what you get when you play around with me. Wow. Him and I make eye contact. And I shoot down my hallway into my bathroom, master bathroom, into my bedroom, locking doors behind me, grab my home phone, hide in my closet, dialing 911 as I hear gunshots. Next thing I know, I hear the policeman knocking on my bathroom door, in my bedroom door. And he says to me, Mrs. Watkins, you're safe now. You're safe now. My goddaughter, the 5-year-old, and Paul, her husband, he shot her. He shot his own son, their own son, and committed suicide in my home while I was home.
Wow.
And that's my experience with domestic violence.
Wow. So what happened to her other son?
Her other son is in Florida with his biological dad and his stepmom and his step brother and two.
So he wasn't in the house at the time?
He was downstairs in the basement sleeping.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And thank God my husband was at an interview, because my husband would have been in the kitchen at that time.
Wow. Well, we know that domestic violence is really epidemic.
Yes, it is.
You know, we can, you never know when a person is going to snap. So there are resources that are available for those people that are victims of domestic violence, or if you know that someone is in the midst of domestic violence, that your role is to be there in a supportive sense, and not try to manage or to handle that on your own.
That's right.
Because it could be really dangerous for you also.
That's right.
So it was the blessing of the Lord that covered you.
Yes.
He didn't also shoot you.
That's right. That's right.
But thank you for rescuing that young lady.
Yes, yes.
And being able to be a safe place for her.
Exactly. But there's a lot of emergency shelters, and what the service that we provide is that we connect. If it's safe, we work out a plan for escape. And if you are in an unsafe place, the first thing you want to do is call 911. And if you are a victim of domestic violence, you can call 211, and they will give you the nearest safe shelter that's the closest to you. And I would not refer you to bring a domestic individual to your home. That is not the safest place for them, especially like a mom bringing their daughter to your home, especially if the abuser know where you live. I would not recommend that anymore.
Yeah. And what is that number that anybody that is in the middle of a domestic violence situation?
211.
211.
211, yes.
So those of you that are listening to this podcast, if you are a victim of domestic violence, and I heard you say that you need a plan.
Yes.
So
need a plan.
That is part of what your organization helps that person that is a victim. And I understand that domestic violence isn't just women.
That's right.
Men can also be.
That's right.
Of domestic violence.
That's true. That's really true. We had our first male victim 2 weeks ago, And we were able to go through a plan with him. His abuser went to work, and he calls us at 2:00. She got off of work at 4:30. So we were able to go to his home, pack his everything into a garbage bag, had him in a safe place by 4:00. But he forgot that she had his PIN number to his ATM card. So she had taken all of his money by 4:35. All of his money was out of his account, but that's okay. We were able to help him get to a safe place. From Thursday to that Tuesday, he got in contact with family in Florida. We were able to take him to the train station, the bus station, got him a ticket to Florida, and we were able to take care of him from Thursday up into Tuesday, got him in a safe place, and he's now in Florida. He's in therapy. He gave his heart to the Lord, and he is doing very well.
Well, Valerie, thank you and your team for the work that you're doing out here to make people aware and to live a safe and full life that God has purposed for them. So again, I would love for you to share with our audience, once again, how they can contact you, how they can get in touch with you, or if indeed they need to refer someone to you.
Yes.
How do they touch base with you?
All right. You can go to myNSSM.org. That's our website. Or you can contact us through email, Valerie, VALERIE, at myNSSM.org, or 704-516-1702. Our office is at Pathways, 546 South Cherry Road, Rock Hill, South Carolina, 29730. And our post office box is Post Office Box 10603, Rock Hill, South Carolina, 29731. We look forward to you. And if you would like to donate, we have Cash App, NOSSM. Again, that's NOSSM. We are determined to turn our pain into purpose because someone needs you and I. God bless.
Wow. That is awesome, Valerie. And Valerie, are you on social media?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Our social media page is Facebook. It's No Sad Story Ministries, LLC, and Cry Out to Get Out, LLC. That's
Ooh, I love both of those names. No Sad Story, Cry Out to Get Out. So are you on Facebook? And what about Instagram?
Instagram is the same handle.
Okay, great.
Yes, it is.
Super. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us your story, your pain, your gain, and your purpose, and how God has turned all of that out for your good, for His glory, to be able to help someone. So you have your book, No Sad Story. So how can our audience get that book?
Our book is offered on our website. On our website, it is $25, and that's for shipping and handling. So just go on the website and order it, and you will receive an autographed copy. And the first, the 25th person that calls into Vivian or contacts Vivian, you will receive a free copy. Yes. You will receive a free copy, and I will make sure you get it. Make sure you have your name and your phone number and your email address, and I will make sure it gets to Miss Vivian and gets to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for listening and tuning in to us and being educated and sharing this information with someone else. Thank you so much, Vivian. I appreciate you so much. And it is a pleasure to meet an awesome, awesome woman of God like you. Thank you.
Well, it is awesome to be with you also, my sister in Christ. And I thank you. And I know this audience thanks you for this wonderful, wonderful information and education that they have received today. So for those of you out there listening, I thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast today, make sure that you share it with someone that you believe and that you know could use this information. And until next week, take care, continue to realign your life, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Peace. I hope you enjoyed this episode. The best gift that you could give me is to share this podcast with family and friends. And don't forget to review it. That way, this podcast will grow organically. If you need to reach out to me, please check out my Facebook page, DM me there, or you can email me at godskow@gmail.com. We have upcoming Bible studies that we would love for you to join us in, or if there is a guest or someone that you would like to see me interview on this podcast, please let me know. We are here to work together to realign our lives. Until the next episode, take care, and I look forward to sharing more and more with you as we realign our lives. Peace until next week.